Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to We Believe Digital and the We Believe Digital Newsbreak Show. So glad you're with us today. Rainy day in Jackson. All kinds of storms coming through. We're going to talk about that a little bit later too. But let's just get you started. We're running a little bit behind schedule, but want to get this show out to you. We turn for global news on the Israel-Hamas war to NBC News and what we know. President Joe Biden has warned Israel that humanitarian assistance cannot be, quote, a bargaining chip. In his State of the Union address, Biden outlined plans for a pier on the Palestinian enclave's coast in order to deliver aid. The U.S. and allies announced in a joint maritime corridor that could open this weekend. I think they're going to try and have aid moving through this pier by Sunday. Biden also called for an immediate temporary ceasefire in Israel's war with Hamas and pointed to hostages' families in attendance at the speech, but hopes for a new truce deal by the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, having faded after no breakthrough in the talks in Egypt. The death toll in Gaza is now past 30,800. It seemed like just a minute ago we were saying 30,000. So maybe 300 people a day, it seems like. That's according to the territory's health ministry. Among surging fears of starvation among its more than 2 million residents. The Israeli military said at least 247 soldiers have been killed since the ground invasion in Gaza began. Also, this is a global story also, but a Russian state-backed group that Microsoft said its corporate emails accounts was able to gain access to the core software systems. So basically a hack into Microsoft. Microsoft said its security team detected the attack in January and identified the group responsible as Midnight Blizzard, the Russian state-sponsored actor also known as Nobilium. So apparently they were able to contain any damage, but somehow they got into, one of the biggest infrastructures in the world. Bad stuff. Now onto that storm we were talking about. Tonight, Friday night into Saturday morning, is shaping up to be a dangerous period with severe thunderstorms charging across some parts of the South and Gulf Coast states, while flash flood threatens over parts of the southeastern states. I know about an hour and a half ago, I got a severe weather flash flooding alert on my phone. On Friday, 15 million people under flood watches stretching from northeastern Louisiana to northwestern South Carolina. With the flood watch areas, a widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain is expected to fall, with locally higher amounts possible. While the Friday flood threat encompasses a large area, a smaller area of enhanced flooding concerns is along and just south of the I-20 corridor across Alabama and Georgia. The southern portions of the major metro areas of Birmingham and Atlanta are included in this higher risk for flash flooding. And that's along with a corridor from Montgomery to Columbus and Macon, both in Georgia. While it is impossible to predict exactly where the heaviest rainfall amounts may occur, these are areas most likely to receive isolated amounts as high as 6 inches to 8 inches. Wow, 6 to 8 inches of rain. Many of the areas dealing with the risk of flash flooding will also have to contend with the possibility of strong to severe thunderstorms. Now comes a story out of Houston from ABC News. It's official. Donald Trump is in charge of the GOP. So it's no longer the Republican Party. It is the MAGA Party now. 2 days after Nikki Haley dropped her presidential bid, the Republican National Committee used its spring meeting here in Houston to install a new leadership team handpicked by the former president, a formal signal of his takeover of the National Republican Party. The RNC's membership selected North Carolina Republican Party Chairman Michael Whatley to serve as the party's new chairman, and Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, to serve as the co-chair in unanimous votes. A U.S. Army sergeant, who's an intelligence analyst, was arrested yesterday on 6 charges related to a conspiracy in which he's accused of trading military secrets with a co-conspirator in Hong Kong in exchange for cash. I'm not positive how you pronounce this. It's Korbein, so maybe Corbin Schultz, white person, was arrested at Fort Campbell, Tennessee, following an incident by a federal grand jury, the Justice Department said. Schultz was charged with conspiracy to obtain and disclose national defense information, exporting technical data related to defense articles without a license, conspiracy to export defense articles without a license, and bribery of a public official, said Henry Leventis, the U.S. Attorney for Middle District of Tennessee. The U.S. Attorney's Office said Schultz worked with a co-conspirator based in Hong Kong who said he worked for a, quote, geopolitical consulting firm based overseas to disclose documents, writings, plans, maps, notes, and photographs related to national defense, as well as information relating to national defense which Schultz had reason to believe could be used to injure the United States or used to the advantage of a foreign nation. In exchange for his work, the co-conspirator paid Schultz about $42,000 over 14 payments, according to the prosecutor's office. A really sad story about from out in Kansas City. You know, during the playoffs and all, it was January 13th. They had a game out there, bitter cold. Miami Dolphins playing at Arrowhead Stadium. So hear what they say. At least some football fans who attended January's bitterly cold Kansas City Chiefs playoff game suffered extreme frostbite and eventually needed amputations. Wow. That's what a hospital said on yesterday. The back-to-back champion Chiefs launched their 23-24 postseason run with a 26-7 victory over the Miami Dolphins on January 13th in a game that might be remembered as much for the temperature readings as for the final score. The mercury plummeted to -3 with a wind chill of -25 at halftime. And again, the contest was played at Arrowhead Stadium. The Grossman Burn Center in Kansas City treated 30 patients who suffered frostbite in January. 30 patients. And a portion of those, I'm sorry, yeah, there it is right there. To date, 12 of those 30 patients have undergone amputation, some of which attended the Chiefs game. Not all of them, apparently, but in the area there. And that's according to Christine Hamale, Associate Vice President of the HCA Midwest Health, which operates 7 hospitals, including the Research Medical Center and its Grossman Burn Center. Love of football, huh? So let's see where we're at with the clock. Why don't we just keep on pushing through here? I think we got about another six stories. Again today, you know, the legislature is in session in the state of Mississippi. We're going to tell you about a couple of bills that are going on. But again, we remind you that today is another day that none of these people are willing to take up. The Democrats have held hearings, and press conferences, but none of the Republican leadership is willing to have hearings on the TANF scandal, where upwards of $97 million was stolen from a pot of money that was provided to the state of Mississippi to serve the poorest of the poor in our state, which is the poorest in the country. But instead, they took that money and they did other things with it that had nothing to do with helping poor people. And of course, you know they're wrong for that. But the Republican leadership is doubly wrong for that, because they're in place because they were elected by the people to represent them. And so turning a blind eye to that, does that mean that all their constituents want to turn a blind eye to this theft in this law-abiding Mississippi? Is that the way that works? I don't think that's the way that works. But they get away with it somehow. But We Believe Digital tell you about it all the time when we come on the air. Just another day. They don't want to turn the lights on. They want to keep the lights off. And we all know why, too, because there's just no way that a handful of people could have spent those tens of millions of dollars like that. Other people had to know about this. Nobody raised the red flag. Now, other people were involved. Of course they were involved. Did other people know about it and they weren't involved, but they somehow knew about it and never said anything? Yes, of course. Sad, sad, sad. When you have the people that you entrust to represent you and your interests, and they just utterly fail you. They utterly fail you. And they all run around calling themselves Christians, you know. Nothing about following Jesus matches up with stealing money from the poor, does it? Now, if you know about a verse or something where that's okay, please call in and let us know. From WLBT, a bill that would take over Jackson's water system once the third-party manager leaves is being condemned by some Jackson lawmakers, in part because they were not consulted. So, you know, on several programs on this platform, we've told you about this SB 2628, the Mississippi Capital Region Utility Act. So what they're going to do, this David Parker from DeSoto County offered this bill where they create this regional utility act and just ice Jackson out of the picture and buy the water and sewer system from Jackson. And now Jackson, once again, has something taken from it that's a major source of revenue and jobs. Just sad. This come from Senator Hillman Frazier, a longtime senator, District 27. It's very unusual for someone outside an area to propose legislation without consulting those officials that represent the area. We were totally excluded from the process. So you see the lack of regard that these people have. This Senator Hillman Frazier, this Senator Trey Lamar from the Senatobia, vice president of the board up at the segregation academy called Magnolia Heights up in Senatobia. These people just write these bills and they don't talk to people down here because they don't have any regard for them. Because most of our local delegation, of course, is African American. These are all white people from out of town that think they know better, because that's what a lot of people do. White people, you know, they think they know better. I hear a lot of my constituents who suffered from water disruption, and they weren't happy with the way the city was taking care of business. That's what the guy said. You know, the utility would be led by this proposal led by a 9-member board with 5 members appointed by the governor, 4 by the lieutenant governor. Those members would have to then hire a director to take the reins of the water sewer operation once the work of the third-party administrator is over, which is, you know, presumably 2 to 3 years down the road from now. District 26 Senator John Horn said he's not necessarily opposed to the authority, but said Jackson should have the majority of the board's appointments. Jackson, once again, is being cut out of its own governance. I don't think there will be any questions that a lawsuit will be filed against this bill if it passes. Another story from the Capitol. There's a lot of confusion and concern from lawmakers when it comes to funding your child's education. It all stems from House members' vote to get rid of the Mississippi Adequate Education Program, which they've only fully funded now for 2 years, in the whole time it's been around. They're replacing it with a formula called INSPIRE, which stands for Investing in the Needs of Students to Prioritize Impact and Reform Education. The funding is based on the number of students in your district. Do you smell it already? Just hearing those words, do you smell it already? It starts with a base amount, different things are weighted, this and that, different aspects. It would cost nearly $3 billion to fully fund it. Now, come on now, when we're working with $7 billion, come on now. House Minority Leader Robert Johnson is raising red flags about House members got their numbers to fund the legislation. Right now, I will never vote for this formula, said Johnson. I don't trust the confirmation of it. I don't trust where it comes from. And he also sees how poorly motivated it is. When you have a formula in place that was established in a bipartisan fashion decades ago, and you only fully fund that formula 2 times in decades, it makes perfect sense to raise an eyebrow about this stuff. Also, we got to tell you too about the setting the clocks back this weekend. Late Saturday night, right? Late Saturday night. No, I'm sorry, not spring forward. Move the clocks forward on Saturday night. But there's an issue there people are now talking about with the American Heart Association. Moving the clocks forward for daylight savings time is enjoyed by many, but losing 1 hour can mean serious health implications. Who would have figured 1 hour? I'm on call or daylight savings time, so I'm excited about having 1 less hour of call, said Dr. Sean Saunders. While at Baptist Hospital this weekend, the interventional cardiologist doesn't want to see the rise in the number of patients suffering from heart issues. Daylight savings time means longer days and more sunshine, but experts say springing forward can have adverse effects. There are some recent studies. The one out of Michigan says there was a 24% increase in heart attacks in one of the 2 days after daylight savings time here in the United States, and in Finland, an 8% increase in strokes for a day or two afterwards, after the change. The heart specialist said you can keep that spring in your step when springing forward by exercising, eating healthy, and maintaining sleep hygiene or getting the right amount of sleep. It's recommended that adults get 8 hours of sleep a day and kids up to 10 hours, said Sanderson, the doctor. Daylight savings time obviously interrupts that, so patients need to be aware of that and take precautions. We want Mississippians to sleep an extra hour and stay healthy. Daylight savings time begins Sunday, March 10th. And just a couple of things here locally this weekend. Drivers going through from Hinds through Rankin County should expect a lane closure on US 49 this weekend. Officials with MDOT announced the left lane of 49 southbound between Summerlin Road and Collins Road will be closed. The closure will be from 2 a.m. on Saturday until 7 p.m. on Sunday. Also, we told you before, but a reminder, lane closure set for I-20 over the next 4 days. For 2 days going east and then 2 days coming west for I-20 that goes to the Mississippi River Bridge at Vicksburg. And on a note that we really hope you take advantage of, tomorrow, and let's just pray the weather allows this to continue to go off, but tomorrow the Jackson Book Festival will be at the Medical Mall. There will be oodles upon oodles of treats and stuff for the kids, food items, all kinds of books and different types of books. and all kinds of. There's a poetry contest going on for young people and for adults, and there's accomplished speakers that are going to be there sharing things about the women's history, since this is Women's History Month. So there's a list of about 6 or 7 women that are going to be speaking about key characters, maybe 10, 15, 20-minute talks each or something like that on these key women in our history. And I was asked to read one of my free verses, so I'm going to be over there, but not going to be entering no contest now. That's for the younger people. But I'm going to get to read one of the free verses that I wrote after coming down here. So I'm looking forward to do that. But please, so much going on, a lot of free stuff. Wouldn't surprise me, T-shirts and other things going on. So if you can make it to the Medical Mall between noon and 4 p.m. tomorrow, go ahead and do that. So that's it for today for the Newsbreak program. We thank you so much for joining us. We hope you like our programming. We work really, really hard. Got this crackerjack producer, Chelsea. We really have a production team at this point, and she's on point. And let us know how you feel about what's going on. We hope you hit the like button on the. And share with your friends, subscribe so you get notified when the new shows come up, and think about us for your advertising needs to move your brands along, move your products along. We'll be happy to do that. Any services that you provide or whatever, we'd be happy to do advertising for that, and the price is right. So you can always call us at 800-492-5186. Have a great weekend. Take good care of yourselves and each other.